A town gripped by fear, the untold history of the Salem Witch Trials. Prologue: Shadows over Salem. The year was 1692. A bitter wind curled through the leafless trees of Massachusetts Bay Colony. Snow dusted the earth, but it could not cover the tension lurking beneath the surface of Salem Village. Crops had failed. Wolves howled at the edge of town, and in the houses of the godly, candles flickered late into the night as whispers of the devil grew louder. It began with a scream. Chapter 1: A Winter Possession. In January of that year, the Reverend Samuel Parris's home became the epicenter of a disturbance no one could explain. His 9-year-old daughter, Betty, and 11-year-old niece, Abigail Williams, began exhibiting terrifying symptoms: convulsions, fits, uncontrollable sobbing, and blood-curdling shrieks. They claimed invisible forces were tormenting them, pinching, burning, even speaking in tongues. Doctors found no illness. The evil hand, one physician concluded. Witchcraft. That single word fractured a community. Soon, other young girls joined them, and Putnam Jr., Elizabeth Hubbard, Mercy Lewis. The fits spread like a plague. And then the accusations began. Chapter 2: The First Accused. The girls named 3 women: Tituba, a Caribbean slave owned by Reverend Parris; Sarah Good, a homeless beggar who muttered curses under her breath; and Sarah Osborne, a bedridden old woman who had defied the church. All 3 were outsiders. All 3 were vulnerable. And all 3 were arrested. Tituba, under duress and likely beatings, confessed, claiming she had been approached by a tall man from Boston, Satan himself, who forced her to sign his book. She spoke of black dogs, yellow birds, and witches flying through the air. Her confession fanned the flames. What was once isolated became epidemic. Chapter 3: A Community Divided. To understand Salem's descent into madness, one must understand Salem itself. The town was bitterly divided between 2 factions: the conservative, agrarian villagers aligned with the powerful Putnam family, and the more liberal, commercially minded Porters, who favored ties with nearby Salem town. Tensions simmered over land disputes, church politics, and family rivalries. Witchcraft accusations fell with eerie precision against those who opposed the Putnams, those entangled in lawsuits with them, or those who had inherited disputed land. More than 60% of those accused were on the opposite side of the town's factional divide. Coincidence? Or was fear being wielded as a weapon? Chapter 4: Trials of the Damned. Governor William Phips, returning from military campaigns, authorized a special court, the Court of Oyer and Terminer. It was chaos in wigs and robes. Spectral evidence, claims that a person's spirit had appeared in a dream or vision, was admissible. No proof was required beyond the words of the afflicted girls. In June, Bridget Bishop became the first to hang. She was followed by 18 others, men and women, rich and poor, pious and defiant. Among them, Rebecca Nurse, a respected elderly woman; George Burroughs, a former minister; and Giles Corey, who refused to enter a plea and was pressed to death with stones. His dying words: more weight. Chapter 5: Collapse and Confession. But as the gallows filled and the hysteria turned inward, people began to question. Prominent citizens, including Martha Corey and John Proctor, were now accused. Even Lady Mary Phips, the governor's wife, came under suspicion. Clergymen like Cotton Mather began to waver. His father, Increase Mather, publicly declared, "It is better that 10 suspected witches escape than 1 innocent person be condemned." By October, Governor Phips dissolved the court. Trials continued under stricter standards, but without spectral evidence, convictions vanished. In May 1693, the final accused were released. The storm had passed, but the wreckage remained. Chapter 6: The Long Reckoning. In the years that followed, the people of Salem tried to forget, but history does not forget easily. Samuel Parris was forced to resign, and Putnam Jr., one of the most vocal accusers, issued a public apology in 1706, claiming she had been deceived by Satan. In 1711, The colony passed legislation exonerating some victims and providing partial compensation to their families. But others were never cleared. The stigma endured. It wasn't until 1957, over 250 years later, that the state of Massachusetts formally apologized. In 2001, the last of the names were finally cleared. Epilogue: a mirror to the present. The Salem Witch Trials were not just a tragic anomaly of colonial superstition. They were a warning. When fear replaces fact, when power is unchecked, when dissent is silenced, we see the shadows of Salem rising again. From McCarthyism to modern-day cancel culture, the specter of Salem haunts every society that allows fear to dictate truth. What began in a snow-covered village with the cries of two young girls ended in blood and silence. A town gripped by fear, and history forever scarred by it.